should the government track criminals with implants when they're released from prison early? Do you think that's a good idea? Does it sound a bit too dystopian, perhaps? Get your calls in now. 207 862 2222 is the number that you need. The Guardian today has been reporting that the Justice Secretary and Prisons Minister met with over 24 tech companies to discuss so-called innovative ways to address overcrowded prisons. Now, one of those suggestions raised was how injecting criminals with tracking devices when they're released from prison could help prevent reoffending and make communities safer as part of the government's call for a tech-led approach to justice. Now, other suggestions included using robots to manage prisoners and self-driving vehicles to transport inmates. Now, these are all reported as hypotheticals, of course. These are just suggestions. But is it time that any of them would work? Carole, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think about... I should say I was watching a Mission Impossible film, the Tom Cruise series. It was part of the plot. They injected a bad guy with a tracking device. Yeah. And when I read this in The Guardian, I thought, am I reading a Mission Impossible film? But what do you think of it?
This is just more woke virtue signalling nonsense from a hopeless Justice Minister, Shabana Mahmood, and from a hopeless Prisons Minister, James Timson. Timson says tech should lead the way. No, it should not lead the way. You need a hands-on approach to dealing with criminals and criminality. Maybe it's even an incarceration approach. James Timson, our Prisons Minister, doesn't believe with prison at all. But this is just a Justice Minister pretending that she's doing something to tackle the prisons crisis. If she wants to seriously tackle the prisons crisis, build more prisons very, very quickly. Injecting people, the thing that they have now is this tag they put around their leg. And the people who are responsible for tracking those people are largely the probation service. Hey, guess what? The probation service is in crisis. Got a massive staffing problem. They can't manage the caseloads they have, never mind the people they're going to be currently letting out of prison on early release. The other people who track these tags are Serco. Hey, guess what? That's mired in controversy and crisis as well. Doesn't work on any level. So who is going to go out and get these people who are reoffending with the implanted? There's nobody to do it.
All right. Okay.
Cops can't tackle criminals, never mind, these ones let out on early release.
I'm going to find out what Bobby has to say after the break. So don't go anywhere, because we're taking your calls on this as well after the break. Should the government inject tracking implants into criminals when they're released from prison? Was one of the suggestions. I think that is a good idea. Give us a call, 0207 862 2222. We heard from Carole earlier. Bobby, what's your view?
So I think with a growing prison population, our prisons under strain, we do need to be creative in how we can accommodate our justice system. And if it includes using technology, and again, we've seen how, again, as an educator, as a teacher, AI is transforming education in terms of marking and assessment, even creating lesson plans. I think the prison system, justice system, should also look into, again, whether judges' processes can be speeded up by using AI to look at evidence and data and tracking people. Yeah, I'm quite liberal generally, and I think this might infringe on rights. But I think, again, if you're someone that's committed crimes,
we are doing it already. I mean, there are ankle bracelets,
but the injecting is just a future usage of technology.
Just feels a bit odd to sort of be invading someone's body to put a
again, some criminals have invaded people's privacy and their homes. So I think,
and hurt them and killed them.
Okay, right. Well, let's speak to a human rights campaigner, Donald Campbell from Foxglove. Donald, you've raised some concerns about these suggestions being discussed with the Justice Secretary. We should say that they're all hypothetical. But what are your concerns?
Yeah, I mean, it's worth acknowledging there's very little detail around this. Foxglove's a non-profit that works on to try and make tech fair for everyone. And our concerns are around the uses of these technologies and also the closeness of the government to some of these big tech companies. So if you look at the context of this, there are suggestions around these implants, but there are also suggestions around using computers to predict people's behavior. And the concern there is that you start getting into a system where people are punished or targeted by the police without having committed a crime on the basis that tech companies say we can predict that someone's going to do this.
That's the script from Minority Report,
Yes.
really. That's
Yes.
the Tom Cruise film. What about what we've seen already, Donald, where AI facial recognition systems have been used in van stations outside tube stations and up and down the country, where people's faces are being scanned and people that are wanted by the police are then spoken to and taken aside. Are you against that kind of technology?
I think a lot of it comes down to issues around transparency and accountability across the board. And I think if we go back to some of these suggestions that have come to the Ministry of Justice, if you're looking at kind of AI technologies, there is a real concern that a lot of these aren't really accountable technologies. They're developed by an organization, like some of those ones at the meeting, like Google, like Amazon, like Microsoft, like Palantir. And then it's very difficult to scrutinize these because the organizations will often go, well, this is our commercially sensitive information. We can't tell you how it works. You can't really effectively challenge it. And I think when you're getting into a situation where you've got these very powerful but very unaccountable technology companies, and I think it's important to say as well, it's not detailed in the information we've got who's been making these suggestions, but one of the groups there, called Palantir, I mean, it has a founder who said he doesn't think that democracy and freedom are compatible. So some of these organizations are led or founded by people with some quite extreme views, to put it mildly, that wouldn't be considered within the mainstream of how we are here. So I think it needs a huge amount of caution and a huge amount more skepticism from the government. I mean, I think the point made earlier before the break that I'd agree with is that this stuff isn't a magic wand. You can't solve under-resourcing by just chucking AI at it. And these companies that are proposing this, these are commercial companies. They want to sell stuff, so you can't just take at face value what they're putting forward, and that's before you even get into the...
Donald, Carole, very briefly.
You do agree that the reason that they're looking at this technology is because the thing we have on at the minute, the tagging system, doesn't work because the criminals either rip them off and then go and commit crime, or the authorities haven't got the ability to track these people. That's why it's happening, or could be happening.
I mean, I wouldn't claim to be a criminal justice expert or an expert in tagging. I think where you look at the subcutaneous implants, or whatever the language they use there, again, it's not clear what they've got in mind exactly. But if they're talking about, involuntary surgical procedures on people against their wishes, then that's very serious and very concerning. And that's
we're also talking about criminals We're talking about criminals who commit terrible acts against other human beings. Should we really be that bothered about them? If they have broken the law, if they have hurt people, killed people, raped people, robbed people, does it really matter what we think about that? I mean, they don't have rights.
Let him come back because we're running out of time. Donald, very briefly.
I mean, two things very briefly. They're still people, so yes, it's still important how you treat them. In my view, there are still limits to what you can do, and the focus should be on safety and rehabilitation. Secondly, they don't say this is only for any particular group. It's not at all clear from these suggestions what they have in mind. And if you combine it with the predictive point, then it's a very slippery slope to punishment or intervention before or even when people haven't committed offences.
Okay, Donald, thank you so much for giving us your time. I really appreciate it. Donald Campbell there from Foxglove. Jean, I beg your pardon, is in London. Jean, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts on what you've just heard?
Oh, hello, panel. Yes, I think I agree with Yasmin, Yasmin said.
With Carole?
I don't when Yasmin
when Yasmin was on earlier, beg your pardon. Yes, go ahead.
She disagreed with it. She said it's dystopian, and nobody should have something done to their body that they don't agree with, whether they're prisoners or not, because it starts off with prisoners, then who else does it go on to? The elderly, so you can track them in case they get lost. Teenagers, if they do too much, ASBO, crimes, causing problems in the street through their behaviour. Where does it all stop?
Well, it hasn't started yet. Gina hasn't started yet, and there's no suggestion that's what it's going to be used for. The suggestion is it's for prisoners, people who have committed crimes against other people.
But do you not share Jean's concern that might extrapolate to other things?
No, I really don't.
Okay, you don't, but
no, I don't.
Jean does. Jean, is there an...
I think it will.
You think it will? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your thoughts. Bobby, is there a conflict, if you like, in the fact that we all carry, we've each got one of these. Now, we might think of them as harmless, but of course, these devices are used to track us. Companies that put stuff on our phones know a lot about us, sometimes without even our permission for them to know that. Is this inevitable in a way? I'm not saying the tracking sort of under the skin, but the idea that technology is going to become more and more prevalent in prisons and in law enforcement.
Yeah, so again, technology marches forward whether we like it or not. But the key thing is to make sure that we hold the tech companies to account. So I think our previous guest was saying, you know, a couple of these tech companies have slightly sketchy bosses and CEOs, but that's not a reason not to engage with them. I think we engage with them and make sure we get government ministers, government experts working closely with them so we can understand it rather than just saying the tech companies, you do it all. So I think it's, technology is here to stay, but make sure we as governments and the people hold them to account.
I mean, Donald was right, wasn't he, when he said that these tech companies, they just want to make money.
Yeah,
Actually, they don't care about the consequences. They just want to make money.